damp stone beneath your fingers provides you no comfort, oddly enough, despite the fact that this is familiar to you, living underground most of your life, within the mines and tunnels beneath the Roost. But this is different. There is a chill to the air, and you can see the breath before you as you make your way down an unfamiliar tunnel, delving deeper into the mountains, a place that you have never been before. You travel like this for some time, following the lines and the curves and the jagged outcroppings of this wall. All you hear is your heavy footsteps as you trod down this passageway. After some time, you finally see a pinprick of light. And unfamiliar voices, almost like whispers carried along the draft, emerging from the depths of this tunnel. The last and the first betrayer. And as you continue down this passageway, the light gets brighter and brighter and almost becomes suddenly blinding, and with it, a chorus of discordant music. Heard a voice. Roth, wake up!
Huh?
Wake up!
What?
Standing over you as you pull yourself from this strange dream is your sister's face, hovering just above yours. Her face is covered in what looks like ash or soot, and all around you, you can hear the sounds of chaos, of screams, and panic. Wake up, Roth! We gotta go, now!
Why do I need to go?
Something terrible's happening. Just get your stuff and go. Let's go.
Oh, okay. And Roth would just quickly probably just grab like some clothes, maybe like a hand-carved toy, and that's really about it. He doesn't, obviously as a child, he doesn't have a lot of things. So he just grabs what he feels is important to him.
All right. As you grab the closest things, the most precious things to you, you pass by a polished stone surface. And in this lamplight, dim light, it is still quite dark in here, you catch a reflection of yourself. What does he see in that reflection?
Yeah, we see a young boy, 7, 8 years old, already, like, you can see some of the scales coming in on the sides of his head as he is clearly a dwarf, but also there's part of him that is that draconic element. He has right now longer hair that is swept back before more scaling takes place and makes it so his hair can't grow where it will eventually be. His features right now are soft. He clearly is well taken care of. Like, his face is washed, his hands are clean, his clothes are clean. He is pampered for some reason, most likely due to being part of some higher structure or higher class in the Roost.
Right. And what toy do you think he would have grabbed in this rushed attempt to flee?
I think it is a little carved dragon made of probably some sort of like smoother stone, like it's not a limestone or shale, it's something softer, but still stone, still hard.
What color is it?
I think it's been painted purple. I think that's kind of like that midnight purple is the color of his clan, so I think it is in that midnight purple.
Okay.
So even more like, once again, going back to ancient nobility and the color purple and what is associated with it, like still, even this toy is something that only a wealthy or well-to-do person could afford to have because of the dye that is used on it.
All right, so as you scramble and grab this toy stone dragon clutching it to your chest, you run out from your little hollow beneath the mountains, your little cave within a cave almost. Your sister's hand clutching yours in an iron grip as she drags you through the house and out the front door. And as soon as you emerge, you see it. Horror, as you see your village and the people that you once called friends and even family, distant cousins, cut down in the streets in front of you by draconic soldiers. And standing off to one side, kind of standing on a ledge, not too far away, you see one of the speakers, representatives of the Guardians, the Dragon Lords who ruled the Roost, standing and speaking in a voice that booms and echoes throughout this cavern as it's magically somehow amplified within it. By order of the Dragon Lord Guardians of the Roost, the Radrin clan is hereby sentenced to culling. None shall escape the justice of our great lords. And as he says this, you see soldiers marching through the streets, dragging people out from their homes, slaughtering them, burning their homes. And your sister paused for just a second to catch all this and grabs your arm. Gotta go.
Why is this happening?
I don't know. Mom and Dad, I don't know where they went, but I'm sure they want us to get out of here. Come on.
Okay, I'll follow you.
She takes you through the back alleys and the darker areas. You guys know this place like the back of your hand. You guys have played through these streets and know all the hiding spots. But I will have you make a finesse check to see if you can avoid.
Now, obviously, this is Budroth as a child. He does not have the stats he will as an adult. So I assume I'm making this with no bonuses. It is just a flat roll, and we'll see what happens.
Flat roll, but I'll give you advantage because you do know this area.
Okay, so I add a d6 to it then?
That is correct.
Okay. Add all these and add a d6. And we will roll. That's a crit. Oh, sorry, no. Sorry. It showed 12 and 12 for a second. I was like, a crit already? No. But it is a total of 12 with fear.
All right. So you managed to stay out of the torchlight, the lanterns and whatnot, stay within the shadows and sneak through the alleyways. However, there is echoing amongst the cries and the smoke and the panic, a thunderous rumble through this cavern as something immense, something huge begins. Cause this entire cavern almost to collapse in on itself. And you see massive chunks of stone and rocks just crashing to the floor. Stalagmites, stalactites, I forget which ones are the ones that hang from the ceiling. Just come.
I never remember.
Just come crashing down all about you. I need you to make an agility check to see if you can avoid it by falling debris.
Okay. That is a 16 with hope.
Hope. So you manage to avoid being hit, but you will take a stress point because of that fear. I'm going to have you roll for your sister too.
Okay. Roll hers. That's only a 10 with fear.
All right. So you can see as one of these large stalactites, I'm pretty sure they're stalactites, comes crashing near you, maybe about 5 feet in front of you. You manage to dodge behind a small little shed to escape the flying shrapnel that erupts from this thing as it crashes into the ground. However, your sister, in an attempt to shield you from the brunt of that damage, it kind of turns her back to it, and you can hear her grunt in pain, and you can see shards slice through her shoulder and arm.
Ash, are you Are you all right?
I'm fine. Come on. We gotta keep running.
Okay.
And you continue your way through these hidden tunnels, secret tunnels that these draconic soldiers might not be aware of at this time, slowly making your way towards the surface. The smell of smoke and burnt flesh kind of carries on this draft that follows you up. Before you, trying to block all the exits from this place, ensure no one escapes, you see a guard, solitary guard, with a wooden spear tipped with a stone spearhead, patrolling. He has not seen you yet. And your sister Ash kind of puts a hand on your chest and shoulder and says, "Wait here, Roth. I'll distract him. And when I do, you run. You run like your life depends on it."
Wait. I'm going to hand her the toy that I have to, like, she can throw it somewhere to provide her own distraction as well. So she can make a noise to allow me to run and then throw this toy to allow her to run.
I need you to make a presence check to see if you can convince your sister to take the toy.
Okay. Uh, 13 with hope.
All right. She looks at your toy. She knows how precious this is to you. Are you sure, Roth?
You need to get out of here too. I can get the toy later. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Wait here. Wait until you see him leave, and then you just run. Run as fast as you can.
Okay.
And she sneaks off a little ahead of you with her toy in hand into the shadows, but you lose sight of her. And then you hear her voice, maybe about 30 feet off in the distance, and says, "Hey, ugly, come catch me if you can." And the guard just kind of turns around towards your sister's voice and starts marching off towards her, leaving the space open for you to run.
And Roth runs. He just listens to what his sister said and just sprints.
Right.
And the way, like, kids sprint, like, it's not clean. It's not something like he's not an athlete, but it's that way that no matter how tired a kid is, like, for some reason, they can always sprint.
Go ahead and make another agility check for me, please.
Sure. That is a crit.
That is a crit indeed. So I'm going to give you an option here then because of that crit. You gain a hope, you remove that stress with that crit. And as you run, as fast as Roth has ever run before in his life, arms flailing, and you pass where the guard was, and you kind of catch out of the corner of your eye your sister fleeing kind of up on this narrow ledge away from you, with the guard chasing her. And you see the guard kind of raise his arm and ready to throw his spear. With that critical success, I'll allow you an action. Want to do anything at the point as you see he's got your sister lined up with his spear?
Yes, what I would like to do, and I don't even think this is like a conscious action, this is just something that almost like happens because of him sprinting. And obviously we're in a mountainous area. I think he hits a rock that like cascades down to a couple other rocks and just makes enough noise to quickly have the guard's head turn so he loses sight of his sister for just long enough for her to clear the distance.
All right. What I'm going to do, he's going to launch a spear. He will be distracted, so I'll give him disadvantage.
Sure.
On his attack. All right, so here's his throw.
14's pretty good.
Here's his disadvantage. Oops, sorry, that was a D6. I should roll a D6. Oh, wrong guy.
Still a 5.
All right. So it's 14 minus 5 is a 9. So as he launches his spear, he hears a sound of rattling stone behind him. Turns his head and turns his body just enough so his throw goes a little wide, and the spear goes sailing past your sister, avoiding hitting or wounding her. And I'm gonna have you make a finesse check to see if you can stay out of his sight while this happens.
Sure. 15 with fear.
All right. He turns and looks and peers through the shadows and cannot see for the life of him what caused that rattling stone. But now he's confused. He sees prey in front of him in the form of your sister. He hears a weird noise behind him. Not quite sure what it is. I'm going to have you roll a presence check to see if you can distract him enough so that he does not chase your sister.
Sure. 19 with hope.
You are rolling. You are on fire today, sir.
Listen, the test stream we did for combat went well. This is going well so far.
All right. So he casts one furtive glance back at your sister as she kind of disappears up the rocks. But then he's more interested in somebody possibly escaping behind him. So he draws a club, like more like a mace. It's another wooden thing with a big stone thing bound to it by leather straps. And he marches towards you. And as he does so, you can hear your sister say, "Hey, Ugly, I'm up here." And you can see again the guard's a little confused, but he's going to continue. And your sister's going to throw her little toy stone dragon at him. I'm going to have you make the attack. It'll be in agility. Actually, it'll just be two. Just go ahead and roll duality.
Yeah, it's all rolling straight. Like as we said, no bonuses yet.
Yeah.
15 with hope.
All right. Okay.
How much damage does the little stone dragon toy do?
I'm going to say it's going to be like a 1d6. Go ahead and roll that d6.
Sure. Why not? It's a 3.
All right. So it doesn't, just like a glancing blow. Just catches him on the back of the head, though, and just kind of, and you can see your stone dragon just kind of clatter to the floor, not a mere few feet in front of you. But that's enough for him to turn around, start chasing after your sister again.
Yeah, I think at this point, like, Roth there's not much more he can really do. Like, he can't fight the guy with the club. He knows that. And he's not going to be able to run towards a system that's just going to make it harder for her to get away. So I think he just, once again, listens to what his sister said and just continues just going through the woods.
You are almost free. With the guard distracted by your sister, you pick up from the shadow, you pick yourself up in the shadows and lunge the last few feet before you break out of the caverns and into the surface. There is just one more obstacle before you can escape, and that is a bridge. Crossing a wide chasm that is black, bottomless as far as you're concerned as a little child. With the collapsing tunnel still all about you, still see rocks and things kind of crumbling down. Can you go ahead and make an instinct check for me?
Sure. Another crit. As we have determined, Budroth is hard to kill, and it's hard to do things to him.
All right. You see, this chasm extends quite a long way in either direction to your left and right, and it kind of extends down into the main cavern where your clan calls home. And you can see here a silhouette of an enormous creature. Now, you've heard of the Guardians, you've heard of the Dragon Lords, but you've never seen one in person. It's almost like these mythological things that rule over the Roost. They always speak through their speakers and never really show themselves. But with that critical success, you see a brilliant flash of red. Scales catch the torchlight in the distant fire from your caverns as you see circling over it, emerging almost like from this chasm, a red dragon, one of the Dragon Lords, breathing fire down upon those who might be trying to escape the village below. And I'm going to need you to make one more agility check to see if you can cross this bridge without it first collapsing on you.
10 with hope.
Of course. All right.
I'm not setting DCs here, so
no, the DC
don't blame me for any
it
of
was
it.
a 10. It was a 10. So
I'm also maxed out on hope.
you can see as you cross over this bridge, and you see this flash of red and this dragon off in the distance, burning your village. The bridge starts to crumble behind you under the weight of these enormous stalactites crashing down upon it. You see your sister standing on the other side of the bridge, holding your toy. Run, Roth, run, and she hurls your toy across the bridge towards you. You make a finesse check to see if you catch it.
That's an 11 with hope.
11. That's good enough to catch it. You manage to snatch it out of the air, just as the last portions of the bridge crumble behind you. And through the dust of the destroyed bridge, the smoke and the fire, and you see running up behind your sister a number of guards. And she's just yelling, "Run!"
I don't think he even turns around. Like, he saw the guards coming. In the back of his mind, he knows what's going to happen, and he can't see that. That would probably just freeze him up. And his sister's clearly sacrificing herself for him, so he just runs, doesn't look back.
You run. You run as hard as you can until your lungs burn as if they themselves are on fire. Tears are streaming down your face until you burst forth. Clear away some of the underbrush to emerge from a cave entrance hidden by foliage. And in contrast to that horrific scene behind you that you have just left, this night air suddenly feels cool, refreshing. There's a nice breeze. Like you catch the scent of something sweet on the air. And all that sound of screams and death behind you just are distant echoes now. And emerging from the shadows, you see a number of individuals.
I think Roth is just it, because once again, he doesn't know if these are more guards. He doesn't know who these people are. I think he's going to just try and continue sprinting.
All right, go ahead and make. I'm going to say this is going to be an agility check to see if you can avoid all these individuals that are kind of surrounding you.
Sure. That is a crit. Still, it's a 4, but it's a crit.
All right. So you, there's about 6 of them, kind of just surrounding you, fanning out around you, and you see at their lead a small woman. I haven't seen people other than dwarves and the occasional draconian type guard. You haven't had an exposure to any other like species. This seems like a strange, short woman, kind of dark, curly hair. To one side, her hands are up, and says, "Whoa, now, boy, it's okay." But with that critical success, you can easily scamper through their legs or click through them and disappear if you like.
I think he does stop because this is something. Because once again, he was growing up to be groomed to become the speaker of his clan, so he does have he's educated to an extent. Obviously, only as so much a 7-year-old can be. So I think he knows the only people who work for the dragons are either the dwarves, the mixed breeds like him, or the draconians. So clearly this is something else. And not having interactions with the outside world, probably the only thing he's ever heard is maybe a merchant caravan has come back with oh, we traded with, the fairies of this area. It's just like, well, I don't know what a fairy is, so that means nothing to me. It must just be more people. So I think this does stop him seeing something like, not alien, because they're still like obviously humanoid and I could recognize that they are a person, but still just different enough to like stop him from running.
When you stop, you can see a little bit more clearly as your eyes adjust to this moonlight. The other individuals, they're a mixed bunch of all sorts of species that you've never seen before. Some are tall and covered in hair or fur. You're not sure which. Others have like tusks and have pale greenish brown skin. Some are lithe and thin. One has wings, almost like an insect. But the woman in front of you seems just like a small, short human, almost similar to a dwarf.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have the scales or like you, just like dark curly hair, deep brown eyes. And she seems to be the leader and tells the others, "Put your toys away, boys. This is just a child." And you can see them kind of putting away their maces and their clubs and whatever they're holding in their hands. She extends one hand out to you. "My name is Callie. What's your name?"
How tall is she compared to me, just in terms of like height difference?
How tall would Roth be at this age?
I mean, a 7-year-old dwarf is probably pretty short. I would imagine somewhere between 3 and 4 feet tall. Don't know exactly where.
You're almost at eye level with her.
Okay. Yeah, I think the eye contact. He doesn't take her hand, but he maintains that eye contact. He's been told that is respectful to do when talking to someone new. Say, I'm Budroth.
Pleasure to meet you, Budroth. Now, it's a little dangerous here. I think I smell smoke, and that's never a good sign.
The Guardians came.
Okay. Oh, and we do have to go then, boy.
Yeah.
Come. You're safe with us.
Okay. And I think Budroth just follows them. Like, once again, there's not a lot of strangers within the clan. The whole idea of stranger, like, don't follow random strangers around, probably isn't a very well taught lesson to him. Once again, just pampered childhood's like, nothing's going to happen to me. I live with my clan. We have guards protecting us. We'll be fine. So I think, he'll just go with them, almost no questions asked.
They lead you deep into the woods, completely foreign, completely alien to you. You have never really seen a forest before. You've never been to the surface before. This is a different world. And through the horror you've just lived through, the exhaustion and the panic and the adrenaline flood that has kicked in through your body over the last little while finally start to subside. You can feel exhaustion kind of overtake you. I'm going to have you make a strength check to see if you manage to stay awake.
"16 with fear."
All right. So you manage to stay awake. You're kind of stumbling along, but you hear like a gruff voice behind you. "Callie, he's slowing us down." And you can just feel a massive furry hand just kind of pick you up, scoop you up, and toss you over their shoulder as you make your way a little more quickly now through this forest.
I think as soon as he's over the shoulder, like as soon as he's off his legs, like he just conks out. Like he was woken up probably like with only a few hours of sleep, has been essentially either sneaking or dead sprinting for who knows how actually long it was. So I think as soon as he's like not physically tasked with moving anymore, just like lights go out. He's just out.
This will be a new scene, so your hope is going to reset, your stress is going to reset. But it's sometime later. You're not sure quite how long. But before you wake, find yourself in that same dark tunnel, a dream that you had before your sister woke you. And as you make your way down, almost familiar to you now, you're kind of searching for that light, searching for those voices almost behind you. This time, however, you hear a dull roar. It's not the roar of a beast, it's just something else, like an enormous wind or something, until you feel it kind of on the back of your neck, the heat, and you realize it is fire. Not just normal fire, it's dragon fire. And you can see as you turn your head, the scene, what you saw in that cave the night before, 2 nights before, who knows, the scales of the red dragon, an enormous yellow eye with a vertical black slit just kind of staring at you, and soon all of your senses are engulfed in that stare, in that heat, and you can feel that fire coming down upon you. And then Budroth. And half expecting to see your sister, perhaps, but instead you see Callie's face over yours now. Welcome to the land of the living.
Where am I?
You're safe. And you look around and you find yourself in some sort of small tent on a cot. And outside of the tent, you can hear voices, and you can hear this, like a light pattering of rain. And you can smell food, something.
I think I don't know if rain's like a very common thing living in a cave. Like, I don't know if he really understands what it is. Like, obviously water comes down from the ceiling, like he is familiar with that, but I don't think that he's ever actually seen rain or knows what that is. So I think he's just kind of looking around, he's like, what's that sound?
You can see Callie kind of fussing over something on a low table nearby. Here, clattering of what are plates and cutlery. And I said, of course, you lived life underground now, haven't you? And she walks over to you with a plate full of steaming hot stew. Here now, boy. Get up. You look like you haven't eaten in days. And she passes this plate with a bowl on top to you, a wooden spoon. And she sits down on a small stool next to you and just looks at you.
I think Roth is just kind of eating. Like, I don't think, like, the noise was the biggest question he had, and that still hasn't been answered. So I think he's just kind of looking at her, expecting an adult to answer his question. Like, as a child does. Like, I asked a question, I would expect to hear an answer.
It's completely ignored your question, by the way.
I think Roth doesn't know that, so he's just like, oh, I'm sure she probably doesn't know what it is, so she's just waiting to like figure it out, and then she'll tell me it's fine.
As you're eating the stew, she reaches around her and picks up an object, and when she turns around, you see that it is your purple dragon. It's got the tail's kind of been chopped off, broken from being thrown around so much, but otherwise, it's intact. And you dropped this. Kind of holds it up for you.
Roth, there's like no place to set this plate and bowl that isn't on the ground, so he just kind of, gently puts it on the ground and takes the toy and just kind of like looks at it, not with any like joy in his eyes, not with any wonder. He just kind of looks at it and remembers the last person who held it and what has probably happened to her. And I think he is still too exhausted and like dehydrated to cry or anything. So I think he's just kind of staring blankly, almost that scene from Saving Private Ryan on D-Day, like just ringing in his ears. He is hearing what happened. He doesn't even know if it was last night anymore. He doesn't know how long he's been asleep. He just has that noise playing in his mind as he just stares at this toy blankly.
Been through a lot there, young man.
Sorry, what?
Oh. Budroth, I'm afraid to tell you that you don't have a home left to go back to. There was some sort of earthquake or some rumblings from deep within the mountains, and
No, it was a guardian, a dragon.
your eyes go wide when you say that.
It was red. It was bigger than anything I've ever seen. The carvings I've seen, they're bigger than that. It's just so big.
True. Guardian are not a fable? There really are dragons under the mountain.
Of course. Why wouldn't there be? They've been protecting the Roost for as long as anyone can remember.
That is it. Boy. You can see that she goes kind of lost in thought. Go ahead and make an instinct check for me.
Sure. My mouse wants to work again. There we go. 16 with fear.
You can see when you talk of dragons under the mountain, her eyes kind of go wide and there's a glint in her eyes. Now you rest up, young man. Regain your strength. We have much to discuss. And she'll get up and starts walking out. Oh, by the way, it's rain. That's what it's called.
Right.
Welcome to the land of the living.
I think, yeah, he just nods and goes back to eating his stew.
Ask you to make one more instinct check for me, please.
Sure. 9 with fear.
All right. You see her walk out into the center of this campsite. They're all kind of gathered around a smoking fire. That's kind of you hear the hiss of the water as it hits this campfire, and around her gather the other 5 individuals, and you can hear them talking in low voices, and they occasionally cast curious looks your way, and you can see at one point Cal just turn and point at you.
I don't think he understands what that really means or what it's about. Once again, somewhat used to being kind of the center of attention for things, being a young kid, and 2, once again, coming from a kind of noble background, he's not unused to attention. He just doesn't know what the attention is for, but it's not like this is suddenly people are paying attention to him where no one has before. Like, he's just like, okay, well, yeah, the adults pay attention to me. They've done that since I was born. Maybe it's because I'm going to be a speaker one day. Like, that's his thought on the matter, but he doesn't know.
Days go by, and as you regain your strength and your memories of that night they don't necessarily fade, but are almost share the same space as the new wonders that you're exposed to up on the surface now. Rain, forest, fauna and flora that almost are completely alien to you. The smells, the sights, sounds, all are new. And you notice that this group travels quite a bit. They pull up their tents, pack them all up. They have a small mule that they kind of put everything on top of and move around a lot. One day, during camp, Callie comes to you and says, Now, Roth, I need you to stay here. You'll be safe. Stay within the camp. Don't go wandering off on your own now. Me and the boys, we got some business to take care of. We'll be back.
All right. Should I do anything other than stay here?
Well, if you're gonna live with us, you gotta learn to make yourself useful now. Maybe go fetch some water at the creek nearby and boil it. We'll be back with dinner.
Okay. And, once again, probably not used to manual labor, so he doesn't know, like, all right, I have to find a bucket and fill it with water and then boil it. So I think the first thing he does is he gets a wooden bucket, fills it with water, brings it back, puts it on, sees that isn't working because the wooden bucket is starting to get scorched on the bottom, so he takes it off. He's like, okay, so that doesn't work. So he thinks back to the stew he had a few days ago. It's like, okay, I know they have like some big pot of some kind. Obviously, probably not metal. I don't know. It's probably a stone carved pot. So he like looks for that. He sets that up. And so he spends like much longer than he would probably ever need to if he knew what he was doing, boiling water. It takes him a decent amount of time.
Go ahead and make a strength check for me, please. Because this, like you mentioned, it is a stone pot and it is heavy as F, this thing.
14 with fear.
All right. So this stone pot, probably about half the size you are. It is massive. It's used as almost like a cauldron, and it's heavy. But with that 14, you manage to shift it around a bit, like almost roll it all around the ground until you can kind of place it up over the fire. Lands with a thud, and you can start filling it with water. You will take a stress point just because of the exertion required to move that pot. Maybe a day later, not a full day. Well, now you begin. They haven't returned yet, and it's getting dark. It's getting cold.
I think he tries his best to keep the fire going. Once again, not really knowing how. He just, anytime he finds just sticks and twigs around the camp, he throws them in there. And obviously, the fire is low at this point. The water's probably boiled. He struggled to get the pot off so the water didn't. I think he boiled it over once, like he boiled it too long and the water went away, not knowing that's what's going to happen. So he filled it again, reboiled the water, took it off so it didn't boil over. And now he's just kind of sitting by this fire with this about the same size as him, huge cauldron of water. And just like, so I think his first thought is like, well, it's been a very long time. I haven't eaten almost at all today. I should probably get some food. So he tries to figure out how to cook some food. So he goes to the mule and like shifts around in the bags and tries to find something edible, something he can recognize as food. Like he might even just be like, here's an onion. Doesn't know how to cook it. So he just starts eating an onion and he's like, it's terrible, but it's food.
All right. Yeah. So you actually, I'm going to have you make a knowledge check to see if you can keep the fire alive.
9 with hope.
All right. So the fire, despite your best efforts to keep it going, because you've never really had to take care of a fire before, you realize, oh shoot, it's down to its embers. Maybe I should put another log on, but by the time I put the log on, it's too big and it won't catch. So it just ends up being like a smoldering mess of no nice little fires, just kind of embers, and they're starting to get a little cold. And you're munching happily on this raw onion.
I don't say happily. I wouldn't say happily. He's doing it because it's food.
All right.
Like a little kid who got something like that doesn't taste good to kids, but wants to eat it to feel like an adult. He is just eating this onion.
Yeah. Go ahead and make an instinct check if you notice. Approaching.
Crit.
All right.
I will clear the stress I have. And,
All right.
This is a good onion.
Damn good onion. Must give you bionic powers or something, because you can hear off in the distance voices and footsteps as they tramp through the underbrush.
Do I recognize kind of the tenor or tone of these voices?
You do, with that critical success. They are, in fact, Callie and her crew.
Once again, he doesn't know how to keep a firelight, so he's just sitting there in the dark waiting for them to get close enough where he can hear them, like, clearly, and could probably shout to them. Obviously, I think he's been told at this point not to shout just randomly in the woods, because that attracts things, so he wants to wait till they're close enough in earshot where he could overhear them, so that way he knows he could say something at a reasonable volume.
When they return, you can see in the fading light, they're not talking loudly. They're just kind of in hushed voices, and you can see over half of them are kind of nursing wounds. There's kind of some have like open gashes on their legs or sides. Some are holding their arms gingerly. Callie herself has kind of a scar kind of running down, a fresh scar kind of across her face. But you see the large one, the furry one, carrying two massive sacks over his shoulder. He just kind of lays them down with a heavy thud, and you hear a clanking of things inside of it. And they all just kind of sit down, and Callie walks over to you and kind of, looks like we need to teach you how to make a fire there, kiddo.
Yeah, I put logs and sticks on it, but it didn't stay lit. I don't know why. But I boiled the water, and he points to this once again cauldron as big as him. So we have water.
He looks at the water, kind of sticks her finger in there, and says, "You got to keep it on the fire to keep it boiling, boy. Otherwise, it cools down."
Well, but I kept it on the fire, and then all the water went away, so I had to refill it. So, how long do you... What?
Never mind, boy. It's been a long day. He notices the half-eaten onion in your hand. So you found dinner?
Mm-hmm.
Go on then. Get yourself to bed.
Well, you all look hurt. Do you need help? Can I help?
Good with bandages, boy? Do you know your way around healer's kits?
I mean, I used to wrap things up and get things wrapped, so I know how to wrap and unwrap things. Would that help?
She calls over. Lug, Budroth is going to bandage you up. Let's see how he does. And you see the massive furry creature kind of lumber over. And you can see he's got this is a mountain of fur. Just kind of walked over like Chewbacca almost. Sits down in front of you. Kind of looks at you, kind of almost like a gorilla type face. Just looks at you as he holds his arm out, and it's massive arm the size of like a tree trunk to you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a small gash along the forearm.
Yeah, I mean, I think unless he is handed bandages, with nothing else to wrap with, he will literally take, because once again, he ran away with clothing. He'll go back to wherever he's been sleeping, take a piece of cloth from some of his clothing, without anything else to wrap with, and goes to wrap him up.
Go ahead and make a knowledge check for him, please.
That's an 18 with fear.
All right. So you take your time and do a decent job of patching, covering up the bandage, keep making sure there's the right pressure on there, so he's not gonna bleed out or get infected. But in the process, you manage to actually pull or pinch some of his fur, and he just suddenly jolts at that. And I need you to make a agility check to see if you can avoid his arm as he just kind of swings it suddenly upwards.
5 probably isn't going to do it. It is with hope, though.
All right. So you're going to take 5 points of damage.
I don't know what my thresholds are as a child. I'll say that's minor, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
I'll take a point.
So he just raises his arm suddenly as you catch some fur in the bandage, pinch him.
I imagine it's almost I'm tying it up, so as he lifts it, I go up with it and then come off and fall backwards and just fall down. Ow!
And he just stands up and he's towering over you. But then he looks at the job you've done, gives you a snort, and just kind of lumbers off. His footsteps kind of thundering the ground. You can feel the ground kind of vibrate as he lumbers off. Callie says, It's a good thing you didn't rip your head off, kiddo. I must like you.
I think I banished it, right?
We'll see about that. We might, you might be not so much dead weight after all. But come, I mean to ask you some things.
Okay.
How old are you now?
I'm gonna roll just a coin to see if he's 7 or 8. He is 8 years old. I'm 8.
She looks you up and down and says, I think you need to start learning how to make your own way out here. If you're going to be a member of this crew, you've got to carry your own weight.
Okay.
I'll have you start by taking care of the camp.
Mm-hmm.
You'll learn how to keep a fire going.
Mm-hmm.
That pot over there, and she
Mm-hmm.
points to the big stone thing that you rolled across there earlier.
Yeah, I moved it all by myself.
That's going to be your best friend. Now, you are responsible for that pot. That pot is the most important thing in this camp, you hear me, boy?
Mm-hmm.
Anything happens to that pot? Big lug over there? He won't be happy because all our dinners come out of that pot, and without dinner, Lug gets very, very angry.
Okay, yeah. I my toy was safe. I can keep a pot safe.
Start with that. How you get going? And she wanders off out of the tent again to join her companions. And as they break open small flasks of ale or some sort of liquor, their mood starts to lift a little, and you can hear Lug just kind of grab one of the sacks and just dump its contents out, and you can see clattering out there what looks to be just mundane type objects, but scattered amongst them some shiny bits and baubles.
Shiny like metal shiny, or shiny like glass reflecting off moonlight shiny?
Go ahead and make an instinct check.
Uh, 17 with fear.
So you're kind of peering out of the tent, looking at what they've just dumped out, and you can clearly see it is a mix of both. There are some things like mundane things like small plates and cups and stuff, but amongst them you see a beautiful piece of colored glass or ceramic, and included in there you can see like what look to be things you might have even seen in the Roost and in your home, objects of jewelry fashioned of gold, and they don't seem to care about anything else. They go straight to those shiny gold objects. You can see Callie pick one up. It's the shape of what you learn later to be an eagle with its wings spread. Takes a bite out of it. Well, worth the trouble, boys. This will probably feed us for another month or so. And she put it in her pocket. And as she does so, she kind of looks over her shoulder and notices you looking at her. Let's get back in the tent.
Oh, okay. But she is, as once again, as far as he is concerned now, the adult who's kind of in charge of him. So yeah, he goes back in the tent.
And as you drift off to sleep, or if you're able to at all, you do hear them as the night carries on. They get a little bit more rowdy and rowdier as the drink starts to take hold. And soon they're hear boisterous laughter, and as the night kind of extends to slumber for you. That night, once again, you experience that dream once more. Don't feel that heat or have any sense of the rumbling behind you this time.
Mm-hmm.
But there is the light in front of you and the voices. Budroth.
I think he just walks towards the light again.
That name, when you hear your name being called, sounds strangely familiar. Sounds like your sister, Roth.
Yeah, once again, just kind of dream logic. I don't think he says anything back, like he doesn't call out, but I think it's the slow walk to a fast walk to a jog to a sprint down this tunnel. Like if his sister's at the end, he wants to see her.
Help me. Help me. And as you run with everything you have, just like the night you ran away from your home, away from your sister, now you're running towards her. And as you run, the light, the end of the tunnel doesn't ever seem to get closer. It just seems like it's this endless, almost like this that forced perspective where it just kind of zooms out from you. And then you're jolted, woken up from your sleep as Callie's, "What's up, boy? Why are you screaming?"
I was, what? No, I was going toward my sister. Screaming, what?
"Sister's gone, boy."
Oh, but I heard her. She was there. The light tunnel. I saw her. I didn't see her, but I heard her.
You can smell the booze on Callie, like just kind of overpowering you as and can see her eyes a little glassy as she's looking at you and says, "Why? Your family's gone. And me and this lot," as she kind of gestures out the tent, and you can see her crew just kind of in drunken reverie out there. "We're not much. But where are your family now? As good as it's gonna get for you."
Yeah, I think he just kind of sits there and looks at her, like, because I don't think he knows what to say to that, because that's something very. It's a very like adult concept of like losing everything and having a found family. I don't think he's really knows what to respond to that with. So I think he just stares at her and eventually just kind of nods gently at her, and then just tries to kind of just lay down and go back to sleep.
We're going to advance a little ways now.
Okay.
Maybe 2, 3, 4 years later. You've grown a little bit. You're heading into your adolescent years. You filled out a little bit. Now, what does Roth look like this time? Because your primary chore this whole time is to carry that big-ass stone pot around from campsite to campsite.
Yeah, I think he can now, for one, he is taller than the pot, which is certainly an improvement. And I think, like, if you were to look at him, like, obviously the definition in his, like, legs and arms is much more filled out just by carrying this thing probably every day. Like, every day he is lifting this up, putting it on the fire, filling it with water, taking it off when it needs to be taken off, putting it back on so it heats back up again. So I think he is getting a pretty decent workout, and, you know, so he is definitely a bit more built out, but only in the way that, like, a, 13-year-old can be. It's not like he's ripped or something all of a sudden, but definitely is more filled out. Probably, like, if you were to compare him to anything like a junior high school wrestler kind of build. So the scales are coming in a bit more. Like, his hair had to be cut because now the scales were like pinching it, so it's now cut shorter. Still longer than it probably will be when he's an adult, so it's probably still down to like below the neck area. And definitely a lot more rough and tumble. Like, you can see he has calluses on his hands. He's dirty. Like, anything clean he had is no longer clean. And his clothes seem more patchwork because what he had as a 7-year-old isn't fitting him now as like a 13, 14-year-old.
During this entire time, you're basically the camp boy and responsible for setting up the tents, cooking the food, retrieving water, all that fun stuff. And more often than you can count, your Callie and her crew would go off, disappear, sometimes for days at a time, or returning again with the same kind of sacks, loot that you don't know how or where they acquired it from. Sometimes they'd come back much more hurt than not. Other times they're in boisterous, joyous mood as they come back with a large haul, and none of them are hurt. But you kind of almost get into a rhythm of this camp lifestyle as you kind of travel. You're not quite sure where you're going, but you're moving further and further away from the mountain. Seems like, and occasionally you can smell what sound the smell of the sea, like salt, and occasionally you catch glimpses of this enormous, endless body of water with enormous waves and a cold, salty wind coming sweeping off of it, and it's on a beach of this massive ocean that Callie comes to you and says, Budroth, I think it's time.
Time for what?
And she pulls out from her latest haul a weapon. And I'll let you describe what this weapon looks like.
I think, like most, because obviously this is a society that has regressed in terms of technology it's not a sword. Like, he's not getting a sword all of a sudden because that requires a lot of training. I think it is probably just a stone hatchet, like something that is more a tool than it is a weapon, but can be used as a weapon.
You're filling out enough. I think you should learn how to handle yourself in a fight.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
The dangerous world we live in, and it's dog eat dog, every man for themselves. Gotta take what we want, take what we need.
Yeah, you gotta protect the family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, take this. Beetle, and she points to the lanky, and you learn later that it's an elf. Beetle will teach you how to use this. Now you listen to him.
Yeah.
And you get good at this. We'll see how you fare. Let's say in a month or so, we might take you on a job.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. You see Beetle, the elf, approach you, kind of give you a once over and says, all right, where do we start? Let me see you hold it.
Yeah, I think hatchet being a one-handed thing, like he holds it in one hand, but he doesn't know like a correct stance, so he's just kind of holding it and like kind of just raises it up as if he is going to strike, like the natural pose you would take. But it's not like an actual fighting pose. It's more like the pose someone would take if they didn't know how to handle a weapon.
He immediately corrects you. He says, you're holding it up too far up the shaft. You got to hold it down here. You got to balance it. Make sure, and he gives you a shove and you kind of stumble and says, you got to keep yourself balanced.
Okay.
And what?
I was going to say, I think at that point, like, because once again, Budroth is not unintelligent. He is uneducated. There is a difference there. So I think he says balanced. Okay, so what is balanced mean? It means probably taking a wider stance. So he like puts one foot in front of the other, puts the other one back to like give him a bracing pose, and is like, you know, a bit more balanced at it. Still clearly not an actual fighting pose, but something a bit more balanced. So if he gets shoved again, he can stay upright.
You undergo training, and this training is, at least from Beto, excuse me, not regular. It's basically whenever he feels like it. he'll come by and say, "Hey, let me see you swing the hatchet." Right? You spend a large portion of your time practicing on your own. But a month passes, 2 months pass, and Callie says, "Okay, Budroth, I want to see what you got here." And she pulls out her own little club.
Mm-hmm.
Come at me.
Okay. And I think Budroth's style at this time for fighting purposes is very much like, once again, not a neat style. It is majority self-taught. Beto doing the very little bit, probably the minimum amount of effort he can to say he's doing it. So I think takes a wide stance, makes sure he's balanced, makes sure he has a good grip on it, because he has learned just by hitting trees and doing whatnot that the way to fight to the axe is you got to go with the weight of it. Like, you can't fight against it. You don't want to exert more effort than possible because you'll tire yourself out. So it is efficient, but it is not clean, I think, is how best to describe his fighting style.
Go ahead and make that attack.
Sure. At this point, would he add anything to it? Would he add any of his stats in play now?
We'll say your stats are in play now.
Okay. So in that case, it would be strength. So that'd be +2. It's only an 8.
8.
Oh, it is with hope. So
all right. So you lunge forward, hatchet in hand, and she just kind of sidesteps you, and she'll counter with her own attack and misses.
Yeah, I think once again that wide stance, she just hits the scales and he like rolls with it and then comes back up with the axe. Like, once again, just using whatever momentum he has to like try and come in with attacks.
All right. Just again.
Okay. 18 with hope.
That'll hit. Go ahead and roll your damage. What is the damage for this hatchet?
If we're treating it as the axe he'll have as an adult, it'd be a D10 +1. If we want to treat it as just like a hatchet at this point, we can just say it's a D6.
We'll call it D8, somewhere in between.
There we go, D8. A 6.
6. All right, that is 6%. That's going to be a minor on Callie. So, describe to me what that might look like when you hit her.
I think because he's not really sparred with anyone, he realizes very quick that if he actually hits her with the sharp end, that's probably going to be bad. So at the last moment, he like just rotates his grip slightly so he hits her with like the flat of the axe, so it doesn't deal nearly as much damage as it probably could to a person. Just because he's like, well, I don't want to actually hurt this person because they're my family now, so I got to do something. So I think it's just a slight turn of the wrist as it's coming in, and so it just cracks her across the ribs.
Okay. Here you feel it connect. And this is the first time Budroth actually hit someone else with a weapon. And you can feel her, you can hear her grunt a little as you make contact. But she just grins at you. Ah, good boy. Ito's been teaching you well.
Someone has, yes.
You just see Beto leering at you over her shoulder. All right, then. Looks like you're ready. You have a job tomorrow morning.
Okay.
You listen to Beto. You stay out of sight until we tell you to come forward. And when you do, listen to Beto. He'll tell you exactly what you do. Don't do anything else. Your life, and more importantly, our lives, depend on how well you listen to it.
Okay.
She gives you a hearty slap on the back. Now, you're probably a little taller than her at this point. It's just, good boy. Help yourself to some stew.
All right. And so, yeah, I think Budroth helps himself to some stew, and He was just told in the morning, so unless someone, like, he'll take care of the camp as he usually does, waits for everyone to, like, I assume he's probably been staying up later than everyone else because he's the one who also kind of makes sure camp is ready for night and everyone else is asleep, so he's been the last one to go to bed most nights. And I think especially tonight, knowing that he's going to be first time going with them to do whatever it is they do, he's not getting a lot of sleep.
The Beto approach you as you're like cleaning up, scouring the pot out and preparing the camp for night. Listen, little fuck. Don't mess it.
I've listened to you so far. I'll keep listening to you.
I'll be watching you.
Think as Beto walks away, Budroth will say under his breath, the first time he does it.
All right. The morning
He is now a teenager after all. He has to have a little bit of that teenage, like, yeah, fuck you, guy.
Yeah. As you all wake up in the morning, you can see them all kind of strapping on their weapons, throwing on like heavier, like their leathers or like even plates of ceramic, kind of just kind of. He looks almost like a ceramic tank, almost with sharp like piece of ceramic just kind of hanging off in various areas. And Callie comes to you. Says, "You ready, boy?"
Yeah.
Now
listen to Beto. Listen to Beto.
Listen to Beto. Now you might see things that let's just say you might see things that might cause you pause, or things that you haven't seen before. Now I want you to focus. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing this as we survive out here. Doing this for our family.
Yeah.
I want to hear it from you. You will listen to Beto, regardless of what he might say, regardless of whether or not you disagree with him or want to do something else or run or scream or whatever. I want to hear it from you. Do as Beto tells you.
I'll listen to Beto. And I'll do what he says.
Boy. And after everyone is gathered around, equip themselves, you make off forest. Travel for maybe a couple of miles, kind of hacking your way through underbrush, kind of following the trails of some large woodland creatures, maybe a deer, until you reach what looks to be a dirt road. And Beto instructs you, "Come with me." And he takes you across the road quickly. And he tells you, "Hide."
Yeah, I listen to Beto.
All right, make a finesse check for me, please, to see how well you hide.
Okay. Should be at a +1. 18 with hope.
You're well hidden. And you aren't hidden long before you hear the sound of someone whistling coming down the road. And from your hiding spot, because you rolled so well there, you can kind of see, kind of have a little vantage point through the underbrush as to what's coming down. You see, it looks to be like a mule caravan being led by a dwarf. And you see a number of other dwarves escorting this mule caravan. There's a total of 4. And as they come up to where you and your crew are hiding, you can see a number of stone slings being launched from your crew, knocking out immediately a couple of the dwarves. And in the meantime, Lug lunges forward. This enormous furry creature just comes in, grabs one of the dwarves, puts him over his head, and just drops him on his head. Beto tells you, "Come on," as he rushes forward out from the bridge.
Yeah. Question for you, because I obviously saw this caravan coming.
Mm-hmm.
Is this like a caravan from the Roost that I might have seen, like a merchant caravan in the past, or is this like totally alien to me. Like I've never seen, like the only mule I've ever seen was the one with the bandits I'm with now.
This is from the Roost.
Yeah, then I don't think Budroth is hesitating. Like once again, I think he is having memories of the culling night, but I think it's not building up any like apprehension or fear. It's just building up anger inside of him that whoever these people are, for whatever reason, got to live and his family didn't. So I think there's a welling of anger that's slowly forming here.
Beto rushes forward, and he uses a dual wields a couple of nasty looking like obsidian like daggers, and he immediately comes up to the caravan lead and starts attacking him. I'm just going to make a quick roll here.
Sure.
All right. Immediately lunges forward and slashes, wounding the caravan leader. You have an option to attack now if you like.
Yeah. Now, here's a question for you, and this might be a roll that Budroth needs to make. Budroth was told to listen to Beto, and Beto said follow him. He did not say to attack. Can Budroth make the assumption that he is supposed to attack at this point?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Then Budroth would attack, I guess, the caravan leader if there's no one else immediately presenting like a threat to him. It's only a 6 with fear.
All right. So as you step forward out of the bush, your foot catches on a root, and you kind of stumble forward, and you're unable to actually launch an attack, and you just kind of like catch yourself as you kind of scramble onto the road. You just see Beto cast a quick dismissive glance at you as the dwarven caravan leader will take a swing back at you. All right, so Beto takes a serious wound as he's momentarily distracted looking at you stumble out of the bush. The dwarf just takes a massive stone club and just whacks Beto across the back, and you can hear bones crack as you do so.
Okay. Assuming we're kind of going with actual Daggerheart initiative as my go, I would like to step in front of Beto to start taking blows for him. Because I think this is one of the points where he's like, oh, I need to protect my family. And even if I don't like Beto, he is family at this point. So I think I'm going to step in front to, if this guy attacks again, he's going to take it, and I'm going to attempt to swing at him again. 17 with fear. Now, don't have any of my class abilities yet, so we're just dealing damage. 7.
That damage. All right, that is a severe wound on dwarf, so that's 3 hit points of damage on him now. So you lunge forward, put yourself between Beto and the dwarven caravan lead. You swing with your hatchet, and it sinks. You can feel it sink into this dwarf's flesh. Unlike before when you were sparring with Callie earlier and kind of intentionally switched it to the blunt end, this time it sinks, and you can hear almost like a squishing sound as it breaks the surface, and you can see blood emerge. How does this make Budroth feel?
I think once again, this is just... he is seeing, once again, his family getting hurt. There is no, like, immediate sense of remorse about this action. He is feeling that this is a justified action. This is... even if it, like, clearly it isn't. Clearly this is a robbery. But to him, it's just like, well, I mean, the Roost has killed my family in the past. They're trying to kill him again. I'm not going to let that happen again.
Because you rolled with fear, it comes to me. And the dwarf caravan lead, as you come rushing out at him and you hit him with your hatchet, he turns to look at you and his eyes go wide. Speaker. And he will not attack you.
Okay. In that case, I will attack him again with the hatchet and say, there is no speaker for my clan anymore. 2. 13 with fear.
That is a hit.
Only 1 damage, though.
All right, that's a minor wound. Take it. He tries to take a step away from you. The speaker. What is this? And He. Can you make a presence check for me, please?
Sure. His presence is at a -1, so I will subtract that from this roll. 18 with hope.
Okay. He drops his club. That's a speaker. I don't understand.
I will turn to look at, obviously, the person who's supposed to be telling me what to do as to if he wants me to continue at this point since they have dropped the weapon.
Vito is still bent over in pain from that club hit. Kill the thing.
And then, yeah, I just swing again with the hatchet.
Okay.
Would I have advantage since this
You will
guy's now
have
disarmed?
Exactly.
So that's D6. 14 with hope.
All right. You hit him.
For another 6.
All right. Describe to me how Budroth kills this dwarf.
Yeah, as soon as Beto says, like, kill this thing, Budroth, once again, just does not hesitate. The hatchet is buried, like, in the side of the neck. Once again, not clean. Budroth is not a clean fighter, doesn't know how to fight. But the hatchet gets buried. He drags it out of him as this dwarf's head's, like, semi-decapitated, just blood gushing out as it drops to the floor dead, and he just kind of looks at it. Once again, there is no remorse for this action. A little bit of confusion, but once again, he was told to listen to Beto, and Beto was hurt by this person and Beto's family. So that's all that matters.
The rest of the fight is pretty quick. With Lug and the other crew members, the other 3 dwarves are dispatched quite quickly. Callie walks up to you, sees the dead dwarf. Good job.
No, I tripped and Beto got hurt. That shouldn't have happened.
Ito is still nursing his ribs. So yeah, see that doesn't happen again, or I'll. Maybe those scales might look pretty. Would look pretty. Maybe I'll make gloves out of your scales.
Just kind of snort at him. We can see about that.
Callie orders the rest of her crew to unload the mules and you'll take actually 2 of them. The others are going to be slaughtered for food. So the next little while, you guys are living it up. You guys are fed well. You guys just hit a major score. And as you're going over this loot, and there is a lot of gold trinkets in this, a lot of gold. Callie kind of takes you to one side of the camp. Tonight you don't have to take care of the camp. I'm going to have Beto clean up the camp tonight, okay?
No, Beto's hurt. He needs rest. I'll take care of the camp.
No, he'll be fine. He's tougher than he looks. I need a conversation with you. Now, that caravan we hit today, that was from the Roost. They have clearly a lot of gold.
Yeah, the Guardians kept hordes. I've never seen one myself, but there were stories about them, some histories.
Hordes, you say? The dragons are real and their hordes are real.
I believe so. I've never, as I said, seen one, but I was taught that all the hordes are laden with the treasures of long forgotten ages of worlds that are not ours, but I've never seen one.
You think you might be able to find your way to one of these hordes if we brought you back there?
Maybe. I know the tunnels of my clan, and most And most of that is, I would assume, similar to others. It's possible, but my clan was cold. If anyone were to see me, I would almost uh, be killed on sight, I would assume. I'm not sure. I could try.
You can see the wheels turning in her head. We'll speak later.
Okay.
And I'm going to advance the scene once more. It's now several years later. You are a young adult now. And over this time, Callie, you continue to do these types of jobs, banditry basically. You know full on what you're doing now.
Mhm.
But you also know that you have to do this to survive. Everyone seems to be doing it. And that's the only life you've known since leaving the Roost. But Callie also meets with you regularly at nights now, and all the duties of camp maintenance have fallen to the other crew, as she is obsessed now with the possibility of getting her hands on Ford. So she spends often late nights talking into the night with you, offering you drinks and stuff to try and pry from your memory anything you might recall as to where that hoard might be, how well it's guarded, what does it consist of, and she starts trying to formulate plans.
Yeah, and I think there's not a lot of plying necessary. I think Budroth gives this information relatively freely. He explains what he does now. It's like, well, clearly there's a lot of things in a horde. It's hard to say. And having never met one of the Guardians, I don't know if they have proclivities to different items than others. If it were be protected, it would have draconian guard on it, and most likely some magical protection as well. But the hard part would be finding it. It's not like these are out in the open for people to come and see. But wait a minute, the caravans we've been taking, they've been laden with gold. They must get it from somewhere. So if we can get one of the caravan leaders alive, they might be able to tell us where the horde is that they are getting this from or delivering it to.
We'll raid another caravan then. We'll wait for our opportunity. Just so you know, Budroth, if we manage to pull this off, we can set ourselves up for life. Find ourselves a nice little home. No more tents, no more rain, no more wet, cold days of winter. Retire. Wouldn't that be nice?
Might be a bit young for that one, but I'll go where you go.
And pats you on the knee. That's a good boy. If I had a son, I'd want him to be like you.
Oh. From what I remember of my mother, I think she would have liked you. Maybe less what we're doing, but I think personality-wise, you would have gotten on well.
I'm honored. Say that.
Take it with a grain of salt. They were all killed for reasons I don't know, so hard to say.
Maybe we'll find answers to that too. If we take one of them prisoner, maybe they might have answers that...
Maybe.
First things first, we need to catch one.
All right.
So the next little while, you're still raiding caravans. You're waiting for another one from the Roost. This is the main north-south road, and you realize that this is the road between the Roost and a city far to the north called Crystal City. And there's a trade route that goes up and down there that you guys are constantly preying on. Until one day, probably late into the fall, there is another caravan coming from the Roost headed north. This one's a little bit more heavily armed just because of the rampant banditry on this road. Over the course of time, because of these sorties that your crew have done, they've managed to outfit themselves a little better, armor themselves a little better, better weapons. I'm going to have to give you the opportunity here now if you want to give yourself a better weapon. What would that be?
I think at this point, what he gets is the shield that he uses, his round shield. I think this is where this comes in. They raid a caravan of perhaps not from the Roost, but somewhere else, somewhere that also upped their protection in response to just the rampant banditry. And it's just this solid, like, oaken shield with this dark, mossy green wood, and with a image of a rising sun emblazoned on it.
So you take your normal positions. You're hidden on either side of the road, ready to ambush this caravan approaching. This time there are 4 caravan people in addition to 4 guards, armed guards. So this is going to be a little tougher. Beto, you're no longer under the tutelage of Beto, but he still holds a grudge against you for some reason. But you're kind of stationed with him on the far side of the road in your normal positions. And it says, try not to trip this time.
It's been 5 years since that day, and I haven't tripped once. Try not to get hit in the ribs this time.
He gives you a little wink at that. And
just a snort and a smirk from Budroth.
All right. Again, they launch their attack with a flurry of slingshots, attacking them, and then they rush out. Lug taking the lead, rushing in and engaging like 2 of the guards himself. You have been tasked to capture the caravan lead with Beto. Now, the target of this raid isn't necessarily the caravan itself. You guys are sitting pretty rich right now with all the stuff that you've been doing. Mm-hmm. Your target this time is the lead. You want to capture him.
Yeah. So I think, knowing that, I think Budroth will charge the caravan lead. If there are any guards in his way, he'll deal with them first. But I think his main goal is to subdue the leader of the caravan so they can interrogate him.
Right. There is 1 guard by the leader. So you have to get through him first.
That's what I do.
All right. Go ahead and make your attack.
I do have a question here. Being as we have done another time skip, what features do I now have available to me?
You'll have it all.
Cool. Then in that case, I think this being probably the once per long rest, I will go unstoppable.
Okay.
So I am now resistant to physical damage. I increase my current armor score by my proficiency, which raises my armor score up to, I think, stays at 6 because I have no increased proficiency at level 1. I add the current value of my unstoppable die to damage total, so we're adding 1 right now. And I cannot be restrained or vulnerable. Cool.
OP Guardians. Okay.
We'll see if the core rulebook, when it comes out, makes it so I don't just, stand there and go, it's fine. I don't need to care about anything. Roll it. As a crit.
A crit. That is an excellent way to start. All right, so you do maximum damage at plus a die roll.
Yep, so if we're counting it as having full, even though I don't have it yet, we'll use the full axe stats, which is a d10 plus 1, so that's 11 damage, plus another d10 plus 1.
Oh.
For another 11 damage.
Nicely done.
Since I have hope, what I'm also going to do... success, deal damage. I'm also going to use forceful push to just batter this guard into a tree that's behind him and just get him out of the way. So what that's going to do is a couple things. On a success, you deal damage and you push the target out of melee range, and you may spend a hope to make them temporarily vulnerable. I don't see the need to do that quite yet, so I'm not going to. And on a success with hope, which is a crit, I would have to assume is a success with hope, I deal an additional d6 damage.
Ed.
4, so that is
25,
26. Because it's
Okay.
you said it was max damage plus a
Plus-
roll.
Yeah,
So
but the
it'd
roll
be
is
a
just a d10. So max damage, I think,
okay.
is 11 plus 10 is 21 plus 4 is 5. I think 25.
Yeah, you're right.
Does that math? Okay.
Yep, that maths.
All right. So 25 points of damage. That is well beyond severe. So yeah, this you just rush out of this ditch by the side of the road, come in screaming, just whack this guy like swinging like a baseball bat, and he goes soaring through, hits a tree, kind of slumps to the ground. You've crushed a number of ribs in that blow, and he's trying to catch his breath as he just kind of kneels on the ground, clearly winded from that attack. Still alive, not done yet. But you did roll with hope, so I'm going to allow Vito to make his attack. Vito will rush in on that guard and try and finish him. Yeah, that's going to be. Yeah, that's enough to finish him, though. He just comes in with a dagger and just slices him, Pat, leaving the captain of this caravan. Started.
Yeah. Now I don't know the rules for. I assume if I deal damage, I can choose to just knock him unconscious instead.
Yeah, I'll allow that.
Yep. So I think he's just going to attack him with the intent of subdual rather than death.
Yep.
Well, I don't want to push him out of melee range in case I don't get him in one, so I'm not going to do forceful push. 12 with hope.
That is it.
Okay. 3 damage.
Right, that's going to be a minor. That's going to be 1 point of damage, hit points to the caravan leader.
Yeah, I don't think Budroth is used to non-lethal combat at this point. I think most of the time he is hitting to kill, so it's a bit harder for him to try and hold back in that way.
You see Beto will come in, and Beto, you notice he's going in to kill. He's not holding back. He's using the sharp ends of his daggers, the pointy bits. But the nat one, though, it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, I think I see that, and I just put my shield a little bit in the way, just to be need him alive.
All right. It's still, you rolled with hope, so it's still with you.
Just another attack.
All right.
Budroth has one move, and it's to hit people. Which is a 16 with fear.
All right. So I think that attack.
Once again, 3 damage.
Okay. Another minor wound. So I guess trying to hold back and not deal lethal damage.
I think it's one, holding back to not deal lethal damage, and now also stopping Beetle from trying to kill the guy we need alive is just... It's a lot of work on Budroth's shoulders at the moment to do 2 things.
All right. It is now the leader's turn. And again, it's a familiar recognition. He sees the scales on your around your face and down your neck, and this one, he's not in awe of you. He's not backing down. He says, "Speaker, you should have all been slaughtered." And he's going to raise his club and he's going to try and hit you as hard as he can.
It's not hard to do.
That's going to be an 11.
That will hit.
All right. I just have to see what damage this guy does. That is 2d. Okay. That's going to be 9 plus 12 points of damage.
I reduce that by 6 base for being the Guardian, which means I take 6. And then, let's see here. I now, because that is now minor damage, I have thick skin. When I take minor damage, roll a d6. On a 5+, I take no damage. I take some damage. I'll take 1 hit point.
All right. This is probably the very first time Budroth has been hit. And as this caravan leader just takes a swing at you with his stone club. You can see the pure hatred. Go ahead and make an instinct check for me, please, if you can discern anything from.
Uh, 12 with fear.
You also notice perhaps a hint of fear. He was not expecting to see you. All right, it's back to you.
Yeah, I think once again, this guy is not worth my attention more than just hitting him with the axe until he's unconscious. So that's what I'll do. 16 with fear.
Okay, that is a hit.
9 damage.
That is moderate, so he'll be down.
So yeah, I think he says like, you all should not be alive. And Budroth, once again, he's used to telling people telling him he should be dead. It's nothing new. So he just snorts at him, whacks him with like the butt of the axe just right in the temple, and just the guy's lights out.
Right, so he slumps to the ground. When he slumps to the ground, you hear Beto give a shrill whistle, signaling the rest of your crew to back off. You got what you needed. You can see them now, Lug especially, fending off 2 guards. He's still struggling with that, but preventing them more from coming towards you, as it gives you and Beto a chance to drag this dwarven caravan leader.
Yep. And I will do so.
I'm gonna make actually let you roll 4 rolls for me, please.
Sure. Anything in particular I'm rolling it on?
Just duality. That's
Okay.
enough for you. I just want to see how.
So you want me to roll 4 times?
4 times.
All right, we'll do the first one. That is a 14 with hope.
Right. We'll just. I don't care about the hope or fear. I just want to see what your rolls are.
20.
Okay.
20. And a 4. They couldn't all be good.
Couldn't all be good. You notice as you all make your retreat, they all manage to escape with you except for one individual. This would be the fairy member of the crew, the one with the little wings, the insect-like creature. As she tries to escape, she is struck down by one of the guards and killed. But the rest of you escape with this caravan leader, and they dare not chase you into these woods that they're not familiar with, and so they will count their losses. A few of their guards have been killed, but at least they got one of you, and their goods are still safe, which is more.
Yeah, I don't think dragons care much about personnel. I think they care more about the wealth.
So you retreat back to your camp several miles away from the site of the ambush. The dwarven caravan leader is bound and gagged and a hood over his head. Callie asks you, you want the honors?
No, I feel my presence would only make his lips tighten, not loosen.
Very well. We'll let you know when you can have fun with him. So you can see Lug and Callie interrogating this caravan leader, very violently interrogating. It takes several hours of basically torture. And when they return, Callie says, we have it. We have our way in. She looks over her shoulder at the beaten dwarven caravan leader and says, it's all yours if you want any more answers from him.
We'll see what he has to say. And so I think just because this is going to be slightly off camera, because Budroth is going to do some terrible things to this person that don't need to be described.
Okay.
So if you want me just to make a presence roll to see if Budroth gets answers, we can do that, and it will either be a yes or a no based on that roll.
Sure, we'll do that.
14 with hope.
He's in rough shape, and before he expires, he says, through like blood spilling out of his mouth, all his teeth are smashed, and he looks up at you with his face fully swollen. You're a disgrace. You're a disgrace to all dwarfdom. You're a disgrace to the Roost. Speaker, Radrin. He spits what he can. It's just mostly blood at this point. Calling shouldn't have come quickly enough, and when word gets back that you're still alive. He starts laughing almost hysterically. You and your little crew of bandits here. You think what you've done to me is bad. Wait till they get their hands on you.
Seems you have forgotten one rule of the Roost. Speakers make the law. And essentially, Budroth sets this man on fire and just lets him burn.
Right. You notice as you return back to your camp, eyebrows raised at your violence. Abito just gives you a smirk, approvingly. And Callie approaches you, and did you get what you wanted?
I got enough.
Very good. We have a heist to plan then.
Let's do that.
Over the next month or so, you meticulously plan a heist of the Dragonheart. Now, this caravan leader has managed through torture to tell you the most direct path there with the least amount of resistance. It is filled with numerous traps. And because it is underground and you are most familiar with that, Callie has asked you to take lead. And if there are people who would get in the way, perhaps the fact that you're a dwarf, maybe hide your scales, though, you might arouse less suspicion. That's possible. And the others will do their best to disguise themselves as like tall dwarves. Like Callie doesn't need to do much, but Lug is going to have use.
Yeah, I would imagine Lug, if we have Draconian Guard, it might be better to like just put him in like as much armor and covering as possible and try and pass him off as a Draconian person rather than a dwarf. Probably the safer bet.
All right. Callie approves of that plan. I'm going to have you roll a presence check to see if how would you disguise yourself first of all?
I think for Budroth, the main thing he has to do, because no one's going to recognize his face, no one knows what he looks like, who's like alive anymore. The guards who he was fighting, heat of combat, hard to tell who's who. So I think his main thing is trying to hide the scales, because even if he were to go out like with different colored scales, he would still be recognized as a speaker and someone of importance, and that's not what they want. So I think for him, what he's going to do for the most part is very thick gloves and padding around his like full body, like as little skin exposed as possible, a hide collar shirt to cover the scales around like the sides and back of his neck, and then for the side of his head, mostly he's just going to like hood, bandana wrapped around, just anything possible to show as little of the scales as he can.
So the way into this horde apparently is through a guarded gate. So your job would be to get that gate open so that your crew can enter. The gate is guarded by 2 guards. How you deal with them is up to you. Ideally, the most subtle way possible would be ideal. Beyond the gate, there are a series of traps before you get to the Horde, but that is the most direct path to it. It's the night of the heist. As your crew dons their disguises, Lug doing his best to look like a Draconian guard, but
Once again, best you work with what you got.
Yeah. Callie takes you, kind of put face to face, puts her hands on your shoulders, and says, "This is it. We do this job, we retire. No more blood on our hands. No more cold nights, shivering in a tent. Get ourselves set up, maybe in Crystal City. Who knows? We'll find ourselves a nice little home there and set up shop."
As I said when we first talked about this, I'll follow you.
Why? You ready for this?
Let's make ourselves the most famous thieves on this side of the coast. Preferably
Infamous.
just in alias and not an actual name.
She picks up the stone toy purple dragon, the tail cut off, chopped off, and it's been made by your cult, and hands it to you. For good luck.
Kind of holds it and examines it. I think for the longest time he has tried his best to ignore this part of him. He kind of looks at it. For luck. And he puts it in his bag.
You approach the Roost for the first time. It was probably 15, 16 years, maybe a little longer. Strange sense of familiarity. What is Budroth feeling as you approach your former home?
I think for the most part, he is trying to keep focused on the heist itself and not kind of the details surrounding it. Like, he is very much, over the years, has learned to focus on the job at hand, because if you think about what you've done, you're not sleeping at night. It's just not going to happen. So I think his main focus is on the heist. When he does, like, when those thoughts drift slightly, is just a sense of unfairness is what he associates most with the Roost. Like, seeing these people still living their lives as if his entire extended family, their friends, everyone he had known as a child, being executed was just okay. Because some dragon that he's never met, never spoken to, said it was okay. So I think it's just that anger, resentment, and just the unfairness of this world that allows these things to happen. But once again, that's when his thoughts drift, and he tries to focus on what he's about to do.
You make your way through the streets and the communities of the Roost. With your hood up, you look like any other dwarf here. Everyone is going about their business. Seems odd, almost, how peaceful it is here. And because your last memory of a place like this was horrific, you make your way through the back wards of the community to the gate, presumably the Horde, and in front of it you see two draconian guards in armor, again holding spears, stone-tipped spears. How would you like to approach this?
So besides the gate itself, is this area fairly isolated from the rest of the community?
It is.
Is there any, like, caverns or crevices around?
At this place, the entrance is pretty open, unfortunately. There's nowhere
Okay.
really to hide. It gives them a clear vantage point to anyone approaching them.
Sure, but there's not, like, a cliff, not a cliff face, but like the pit I crossed as a child. There's nothing like that around here.
No.
Okay. In that case, I think Budroth, remembering his training as a speaker and knowing the weight that can carry, I think has if we can say he has done this before the heist, essentially forged a letter saying that, hey, something's going on. The speakers need to see you guards for whatever reason. So he has essentially a forged letter with the closest, what he remembers as the seal of the speakers. Whether or not it actually is, after 15 or so years, it might have changed. He doesn't know. But he's doing this first to try and keep it quiet. And if it goes loud, it goes loud. There's not much you can do past that.
Okay. So you approach the guards, and they immediately close rank, and one of them demands, "Who goes there, and what is your business here?"
I come from the Council of the Speakers, and I produce the letter with this seal on it, and I hand it to him.
Presence check.
Sure. 17 with hope.
All right, one of them unravels the scroll and looks at it. And what does the scroll actually say?
It says essentially that, once again, I assume there was a clan marking on the caravan that we took this caravan master from. So it's essentially, assuming we're robbing the same clan, the speaker of the clan wishes to address all the guards in relation to the recent kidnapping and how we are addressing this. It's essentially a summons to go to, the gathering place for this community, because the speaker is going to make an announcement to all of them about what's going on.
So the name of this clan is Clan Karon. Karon.
Karen.
And he looks at it and says, "It is an order to attend a summons that would leave the gate unguarded." And they kind of look at each other, kind of confused at that. And they say, "It is the council's wish. It is not our place to disobey." And he takes the scroll, kind of tucks it into his jerkin, and off.
I pretend like I'm going to go walk off and deliver more of these letters. I have a few of them prepared just as oh, I'm a messenger. I have more of these letters that I need to deliver. So I walk off a little bit till I can keep an eye on them, but they don't see me because they're walking away. And then I'll circle back around to the gate and get ready to open it.
A finesse check to see how well you do that.
You got it. Not well, but it is with hope.
All right. You circle your way back, but you catch the eye of one of the guards, sentries that were there, and says, "Are you not coming with us?"
No, I thought I dropped something here. I need to go deliver. And once again, I open the satchel to show, once again, more of these letters that I have prepared. I need to go deliver more of these. I thought I had dropped one. It was my mistake. Sure. So, once again, the experience I have is Horde Thief, which is a little weird considering I'm in the middle of the heist. Could I spend a hope to apply that here since we have prepared for this heist? Okay. One to ask, just in case.
Not until afterwards.
Sure. That's still a 19 with hope.
He just gives you a nod, says, "Very well then. Do not tarry. March off to leave you to your business."
Are they well and truly gone at this point?
They're well and truly gone now.
Okay. So now, being alone here, finally, he's going to start looking around for how this gate actually opens as opposed to what he was doing initially, which is just kind of can I just push it open? Can I just pull it open? He's looking around for now the actual mechanism that operates this gate.
It is locked. There seems to be a lock and key.
Well, that is unfortunate. I think he is just going to take out... What's the lock made out of? Is it stone or is it glass? What's it made out of in terms?
Looks like it's some sort of hardened ceramic.
Okay. Then yeah, I think he's going to take the shield off his back and line up a hit on it to just smash it with his strength. So in that case, I do also have the experience, the muscle, which I think probably I have at this point. So I would like to spend a hope to apply that to this.
Yeah.
So we're rolling, I guess, just a strength check.
Yep.
So that'd be with +4 for my +2 to strength, and then +2 for the experience. Cool. Anything else that needs to be applied? No. Let's roll it. It's only a 9 with hope.
9 with hope. So you raise your. What is your weapon at this point?
This was using the shield. Like,
shield?
I think he still has, like, he has a bigger axe at this point, like something, because obviously the hatchet was for his teenage years. He has moved on to an actual battle axe. Not like a big two-hander, but something that is actually designed for combat. So, but this, he's using his shield. He's trying to, like, hit it with a kind of the edge of the shield to burst open the lock.
All right. So unfortunately, it does not break, but fortunately, it doesn't make too much noise. And try again if you like.
Yeah, I think I'll spend the hope I just got to once again do the same thing. It's like, I am not a finesse guy. They have bought the muscle in to pick a lock, and that ain't happening. So, this is what we do. That's a 21 with hope.
All right, that'll do it. After the first attempt, just kind of maybe you're being a little too careful not to make too much noise. Maybe have some form of subtlety in this, realizing that hey, this lock is a bit tougher than you expected to do. And throw your full weight behind the second blow, and with it, an audible crack, but not too loud, as the lock just kind of snaps open.
Yeah. Once the lock is snapped, I take it off. I open the gates, and do I have something to signal the rest of the crew with?
Yeah, it's some sort of like animal kind of sound, maybe.
Yeah, my sister and I used to play in these tunnels. There was a certain like rock lizard that lived here, and I make its noise as the summoning call.
You see emerging from the shadows, your crew step forward, and Callie just slaps you on the back of the shoulders. Good job. Throws the gate open. Immediately, you are brought back to your dream. A long, dark tunnel. Damp walls, sound of nothing, really, except your own breath and footsteps. And at the far, far end of this tunnel, you do see light. But unlike the light that you saw in your dreams, this looks like the glint of something precious. Says, now don't forget, the tunnel is apparently lined with traps, so be careful. You're taking the lead. But if you come across something, just let us know, and Beto here, he's an expert at traps, and take care of them.
Should have helped me with the lock then. All right. So yeah, I think step at a time, slow, methodical. He is not rushing this. He knows, like, Budroth, I don't think has much experience with magic. Like, I don't think he's really seen it at all from who he's been with or any of the caravans he's robbed. So, like, he is literally keeping an eye out, like, does one stone seem out of place? Is there, like, a weird carving on anything? Like, he is keeping a very detailed look at the environment around him to see if there's anything that... Because, you know, if there's an invisible wall that he's going to pass through, there's nothing he can really do about that. But if it is something physical that has a presence, he is trying to be aware of it.
Go ahead and make that instinct check for me.
It's only a 4 with fear.
That is your worst roll of this session. An unfortunate time to have it.
I mean, I think it makes sense considering the ending of the heist, that the heist ain't going smooth.
All right. So you make your way gingerly, carefully, expecting every stone before you step on it. But nothing seems out of place, and there's this uncanny feeling of deja vu. You've been here before. And perhaps it's that strange sense that kind of catches you off guard, and perhaps although you're trying to be laser focused on what you're doing here and and the enormity of what you're trying to achieve here. There's this gnawing feeling that something else going on here. And sometimes you swear you hear your sister's voice calling from ahead.
I feel the heat of that flame that from that one truly horrible dream on my back. I don't turn around because I know it's not there, but it feels there.
And as you stand closer and closer, you don't come across any traps. It seems kind of odd and disconcerting in its own way. And you find yourselves on the threshold of an enormous cavern filled with all manner of golden objects in mountains rising well above your height. Heaps and heaps of it. And hear a low whistle. That is a horde. And you can hear Kai says, "Well, get on with it, boys. Drop what you can. Let's get out of here." And you can see your crew kind of fan out into this horde, making small clinking noises as they climb over these mountains of gold, trying to stuff sacks filled with as much gold and rubies and gems as they can.
I think Budroth is just... He's not going for the horde. He's sitting there thinking, like, this doesn't make sense. Why would only a locked gate be between us and all this? That doesn't make sense. And there's that gnawing feeling in the back of his head that he has been down that hallway before. And he does not know what is... He almost thinks, like, this must be another dream. Because how could it be this easy? It doesn't make sense. Sure. Uh, 11 with fear.
As these thoughts come racing through your head, like this is not right. Something is off here. Feel that heat on the back of your neck. That's why you think, first of all, oh no, this is just some residue from that dream that I've had before. For the brief moment, then you realize, yeah, the temperature in this room has suddenly gotten a lot warmer. Very quickly.
I look around for... is Callie also doing the same thing of just feeling
Yeah,
sad?
these guys are having a blast. They're like rolling around in the gold and...
The temperature's rising in here. Something's not right.
Callie just kind of gets up from her reverie, just kind of basking, like literally bathing in gold coins. As you look
Scrooge
up.
McDucking it.
Yeah, exactly. He's looking up at you. What do you mean? This is a...
It is getting warmer. Why is that happening?
And as she gets to her feet, you can see for the first time a shadow kind of break away from the wall of the cavern. And it is enormous. And in the brief flicker of torchlight, you can see red glinting off its scales as this massive red dragon crawls over the mountains of your friend.
I think Budroth's instinct, I think he like reaches for the axe at his side, but he realizes that is not going to cut it. It is not a weapon for a dragon. So he looks around for something in here that would be useful, and I think this is where he spots the axe that will become his. It is a very ornately carved dragon scale, the same color as his, on this beautiful like birch carved handle, curved little spike at the other end, like, and he just, for a second in his mind, he recognizes that this is the same color as him, but that's not the important thing right now. The important thing is to distract this dragon long enough for everyone else to get out. That has been his role in the group for as long as he has been an adult. He is the one who takes the hits, and he's going to do it again now. So he just goes for that axe.
All right, you see this axe, strange familiarity with it, same color as you, same perhaps patterns of scales as you even. However, the dragon crawling over the mountains of gold behind your friends who are still unaware of the threat. And as you yell for them to run, to get away, to watch out, I'm going to have you make a presence check.
Okay. 10 with hope.
As they get to their feet, trying to listen, like, whoa, what's going on, Budroth? What's happening? You can feel like the wind in this room suddenly get almost sucked out of it as the dragon inhales deeply. And there's a moment where the air is just still, quiet, before this room turns into a furnace. And the dragon unleashes its breath weapon, its fiery breath, sweeping over your friends. They scream in agony as they kind of like are dancing there, like turning around, spinning, trying to roll and extinguish this flame that is engulfing them. The flames kind of lick towards you. With that hope, I'm going to allow you to make the choice that you can either try to run or help your friends out or fight a dragon.
Well, I feel one of these things is not going to be canon to the whole story. I don't think Budroth gets away with fighting a dragon. So I think he quickly realizes that these flames are not going out. That there is nothing on this earth that he is going to be able to do to help his family once again. And so once again, at the sacrifice of those he loves, he runs. He knows that's essentially his only real option. So he grabs that axe and just sprints down the hallway. And once again, in the back of his mind, he just remembers that dream of the hot breath behind him, of the flames that will engulf him. But he sprints.
And this time, those flames are real, as you can feel the flames envelop not only the room, but start to extend up the hallway, chasing after you. And as you run again, same feeling as you had when you were 8 years old and escaped the culling. The screams of your friends, the heat, smell of burnt flesh. Running almost blindly through this dark tunnel until you emerge back at the gate, surrounded this time by a dozen guards, spears leveled at you. And the one guard that you had given the scroll to steps forward.
Now, this is an interesting part of what Budroth wants to do. Gonna roll a die and see what his decision is. He drops the weapon, takes off the shield, and I think at this point, his cloak is already like singed, the clothes he was wearing. I think he takes it off, and suddenly they also now see he is a speaker as well.
There's a moment of hesitation before all the guards here are draconian, but they will step forward, confiscate your shield and your weapon, immediately bind you, and escort you away. You are held in a prison in isolation for not very long, maybe a day or two, before you're brought forward to a council chamber. It is dark, a cavernous room once more, and you can see torch sconces kind of lining the wall, evenly spaced, and on a raised platform above you, there's a series of braziers lighting up that area, and behind each of them is a speaker, from each one representing a different clan. You notice that there's one pedestal empty. So there are 4 speakers that stand before you now, each of them adorned in the colors of their clan. One red, one black, white, one blue. One that's missing is green. And as the doors close behind you, and you know that there are 2 draconian guards behind you, making sure you don't try anything funny, you are in chains. And these chains are not iron, but they're made of some sort of ceramic once more. And they secure them down to some sort of fastening on the floor in front of you, so you can't really move your arms.
Yeah.
Are tied there. The red speaker steps forward. Speak your name.
I am Budroth of Clan Radrin.
You hear whispers and low voices between the speakers above you. And the red speaker once again said, "You were to be called."
Seems you have failed your guardians, then.
See the blue speaker, a woman, speak up, step forward and speak. How was it that you escaped the calling?
I ran. I was only a child then, so fortunate enough to be easily missed.
And what is it that brought you back to the Roost? What is it that instilled within you the brazen thought that you could steal from the Guardians?
The same brazen thought that led you all to think that calling a clan would have no consequences. There are always consequences to our actions. I'm facing mine now, and if the Guardians hear I'm alive, you'll all face yours as well. You failed them. You couldn't even kill a child. I wonder how they would handle that.
The white speaker steps forward, an elderly dwarf. White scales kind of blending in with the white hair and long braided hair. Perhaps he was spared for a reason. Perhaps, as he looks to the empty pedestal on the dais beside them, perhaps a chance at redemption.
Be hard if I don't know what I'm redeeming. All I know is that my family were killed by orders of beings I've never met for reasons never told to me. So what am I redeeming here?
Black speaker says in a very deep and resonant voice, "There was purpose behind the calling. It is not an undertaking done lightly. To destroy one of our own clans. But the Guardians deemed in their infinite wisdom that a member of your clan would betray them.
And my guardian had nothing to say on this.
Guardian called.
So not all-powerful. Good to know. If I'm to be executed, I'd rather have that happen than continue this conversation. So what is it that you want? Because obviously, I'm out of a cell and not in a gallows. So why am I here?
Red speaker now takes the lead and says, "You bear the markings of a speaker of a former great clan of the Roost. We simply cannot execute you. What we shall do with you has yet to be decided. We shall seek guidance from the Guardians and their infinite wisdom. If they deem you unworthy of life, beyond redemption, then you may yet see the gallows. But until then, justice must still be served. And you can hear a door open off to one side of the chamber, and from the shadows emerges 3 individuals, 2 dwarves in heavy, like, gloves, like smithing type gloves, carrying forward a cauldron of stone filled with burning hot coals. And they lay it down in the center of the floor in front of you. And you see another 3rd dwarf wearing a mask, a hood, step forward in leathers and carrying a long brand. You, Budroth of Clan Radrin, are a horde thief. And from this day forward, you shall be branded as such, as is our way.
As is your way.
And with that, you can see the hooded dwarf in leathers plunge the brand into the hot coals. And as it emerges, it is glowing hot. And the brand consists of 3 vertical lines with the 2 exterior ones kind of curving out slightly, and there's the line on top. And you recognize this as the initial for T, or thief.
Mm-hmm.
And he takes the brand, and you can feel the guards approach from behind you, and they force you to kneel.
He doesn't resist.
One of the guards grabs the back of your mullet.
At this point, it would probably be like more of like a swept back kind of mohawk style. So there is hair to grab. It's not quite a mullet though.
Okay. So he grabs back your mohawk and just pulls your face back. So your neck is kind of stretched upwards. And you see the brand coming towards your face.
I think I just lock eyes with the person doing it. And like, he is clearly holding back pain, but I don't give them the satisfaction of a scream or anything. It's just me locking eyes dead with this person who is branding me.
I'm going to make you roll a strength check to see how well you withstand the pain of branding.
Okay. Can I spend a hope to use the muscle?
And you can use Horde Thief here too, if you like.
Oh, I will. I'll add +6 total to this. 19 with fear.
So the smell hits you before the pain as the brand descends upon your forehead, above your eyes. Your eyes, you struggle to keep them open from the smoke and the searing flesh and the pain coursing through your head and body. You will get a point of stress fighting that, but you manage to suppress any sort of outward expression of pain.
Just breathing heavy and just staring daggers at this guy, whoever it is. Can I potentially, if you'll allow me, can I roll instinct to see if there's like any features, like is there a mole underneath this guy's eyes? Because clearly he has to have some sort of sight from the hood. Mm-hmm. So I want to see if there's anything that I could later use to identify this guy.
Sure.
15 with hope.
All right. You notice not so much on his face, but on his arms, which are bare from the gloves up to his sleeves. Mm-hmm. There is a tattoo almost of a red dragon kind of wrapped around his arm. Very distinctive. So after the branding has been completed, you can still feel that heat and the searing pain spreading across your forehead. They take the brand and the cauldron away, and the red speaker, Budroth Radrin, until we have decided your fate, you shall rot in the dungeons of the Roost.
Don't keep me waiting long.
You are hauled to your feet by the 2 guards. The chains unfastened to the floor, but your hands are still bound. And you are escorted away. And you can hear the council members behind you speaking. Go ahead and make an instinct check to see if you can overhear any of the conversation.
12 with hope.
All right. The only words you manage to catch are from the blue speaker, and she says, perhaps he's the betrayer. Perhaps we should kill him outright. And you hear the white speaker say, disagree. Perhaps this is redemption. Perhaps we can rebuild the clan, but this time under the guidance of the Guardians. And you can hear this debate continue behind you as you're led away.
Just think to myself, wasting breath.
You're led down a dank, musty corridor, similar to the tunnel that you led to the horde. But this time, it ends in a series of cells. Being imprisoned within the Roost seems pretty common because these cells are pretty full of all manner of people and creatures and species that maybe are from the surface, or that made their way into the Roost and should not have. You see one of these doors open with heavy wooden oak door, and you're unceremoniously thrown to it. What do you do at this point?
I think as soon as he's in the cell, he just turns around and no nicer accommodations for a speaker then.
You turn around and you do realize that you are not alone in the cell as the door slams behind you. As you turn to look at the shadowy figure that occupies the cell with you, that's where we'll end.
You've been listening to The Breaking Symphony, featuring Max as Budroth and Andrew as the Game Master. This has been a Looking for Mom production with soundscapes from Monument Studios and Sirenscape. Thanks for listening.